Hi, I'm the Gadget Guru, Andy Parr, and you're watching Videos by Andy. Well, as we all know, there's been a lot of conversation lately about the FAA and regulations and know before you fly and all these rules. But one topic that we really don't talk about is insurance. And I'm not talking about insurance for the commercial operator. I'm talking about insurance for people like you and me, recreational flyers. Well, I have an expert in her field, and she's going to help us out. We're going to talk recreational copter insurance, and that starts now. Well, whether you've been flying for a long time or you just got your first copter, we've all heard about the things that you need to know before you fly. You know, you keep it in line of sight. You keep it under 400 feet. But how about other things? What happens when something goes wrong? Yes, copters have been known to follow the sky. They hit trees. They can run into windows. Other things can happen. You know, they can harm people. We hope that's not the case. But it's always good to know that if something like that happens, you're insured. Well, with me right here is Dulce Suarez-Resnick. I hope I'm saying that right. You have a long name.
You've got it.
Even longer than your name. On your card, you have a bunch of initials. You have been in the insurance business for how long?
30 years now.
When did copters, or as you know, a lot of people online don't like to say drones or unmanned aerial vehicles, when did they first come on your radar?
We started hearing about them about 2.5 to 3 years ago, and what we were mostly hearing was its commercial use.
Let's go on and focus on recreational use. I know, okay, me as flying, I'm concerned about a few things. It falls out of the sky. You're flying. You're not doing anything wrong. You're flying within FAA regulations, but it flies. It's out of warranty. The manufacturer's not going to take it back, and it's totaled. What happens?
Well, what did it fall on something?
No, let's say it just fell out and damaged and you're looking to get your copter.
Under the definition of the insurance policy is we pay for accidental losses. So anything that is considered an accident, even if you back up into your garage door, that's an accident, we're going to pay. Okay,
so if, let's say that same person who had that copter that was not covered when it was stolen in the car, if that same person would have been flying in the backyard and it just ceased to operate, fell out of the sky, did not harm anybody, and was totaled, that would have been covered.
That would have been covered.
Okay, so that's kind of
again, it would fall again. Deductibles will apply. They'll come and check and see what the use is, things like that.
Okay, now the big one, liability. These things have been known to fly away. Sometimes they're user error, sometimes they're not. Sometimes it's a fault with the manufacturer or a specific software firmware. You could be flying it through no fault of the user, or let's say it even might be. It flies away, it hits a house, breaks a window. What sort of coverage is needed to protect the user?
Well, if it's just going to break a window, then your personal liability under your homeowner's policy is going to cover that. Just the same way you would have children playing, you know, with a bat and ball outside on the street, and they're playing and the ball goes and hits a window. So that's going to be covered like anything else. Or like if when you're playing golf and you hit the ball and happens to be the people were there and they saw you hit the ball and break their window. So that's regular personal liability under your homeowner's policy.
But the difference of a golf ball, if somebody lives on a golf course, then...
Well, they're assuming some risk.
Yeah, they're assuming the liability because they're buying a house on a golf course unless the golf course...
And that's why when they can never find the players, the insurance company is not going to give them a hard time. But if they saw you and they know that you were operating the copter and it got out of control, for some reason it went out of control and it hit somebody's window, it fell on somebody's car that was parked in the driveway, you know, that's just regular liability and that's going to be covered. What it will take you to a different level is what you were doing in the copter, and once the copter has a camera attached to it.
Okay, now you say cameras. There's been a lot of talk about privacy, and people are concerned about privacy. Now I know the copters I fly have such a wide-angle lens. For me to make out facial features, I'd have to be so close, or I'd be too close to fly to them. You know, it's like if you look at, you know, most people don't understand copter cameras, but a lot of people understand GoPro and what a wide field of vision they have. However, these cameras are becoming more sophisticated. Just recently I flew one with a zoom lens. How does a person protect themselves from a privacy claim? I mean, what's involved here?
Well, here's the thing. Under your homeowner's policy, you have the garden variety personal liability. But if you videotape somebody, and that's considered an invasion of privacy, you need to have personal injury liability coverage under your policy.
No, what is that? Because that's
personal injury liability. It's not the personal injury that you're used to in a car. It's personal injury, meaning that this is going to cover you for libel and slander, trespassing, invasion of privacy, wrongful arrest. It gives you these wide range of coverages that are not automatically covered under personal liability under your homeowner's policy.
So this is something you have to ask for?
And the funny thing is that you add it to your policy. So let's say you have $300,000 liability under your homeowner's policy, and you add personal injury liability, it's going to be the same limit. So you have $300,000 here, $300,000 here. You're paying $25 to $30 a year for personal injury.
To play devil's advocate with you, what is the difference of a person flying safely over a beach and videotaping people, then somebody taking out their iPhone or Android or whatever smartphone and capturing footage there at ground level?
That's fine. It depends what you do with it. So now let's say, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say you have a 13-year-old child, and they have a copter, and they're flying the copter around their neighborhood, and they're in people's backyards, and they have videotaped something that they found sort of interesting, and
a husband and wife who are not necessarily married to each other.
Probably, something like that.
Something that never happens like that.
Something they found really interesting, and they go ahead and they post it on Instagram, or they tweet it, or they put it on Facebook. Well, we all know now that social media is one of the things that's driving adding personal injury liability to a homeowner's policy, because you can bully people through these social medias. So now, take a step back. You now have a teenager who is flying their little copter. They find it interesting, the stuff that they're videotaping and what they catch and what they see, and all of a sudden they decide to post something, and the people see it, and they decide to sue. Invasion of privacy. Okay, you were trespassing. Well, no, I wasn't on your property. Oh, yes, you were.
Okay, so let's say that could be somewhat intentional. Suppose it was unintentional. Let's say you're flying over a group of backyards and you're up there and you accidentally see something. In fact, when you're watching it, you're not realizing what you saw. You post it online, and as you're flying over somebody's pool, there is somebody messing around who shouldn't be messing around. You post that online. That was an unintentional act versus going over there, swooping in and going, look what I see. Somebody's topless, let's say. And if it's unintentional, does that change it?
Well, intentional acts are usually excluded, okay? Intentional acts are usually
excluded. You're not going to cover intentional.
Yeah, okay. Intentional acts are usually excluded. Now, if we're talking about children, okay, the insurance company pretty much goes by the way of saying, okay, they don't know any better sometimes. They're just being kids, and us parents are responsible for them. And half the time, us parents don't know what's going on. I know I have a teenager. I know what's going on. I'll kill her. But anyway, so the insurance companies are going to pay for those minors, okay? Because we're responsible for our children. Now, it happens, and it could happen it could happen to a good Samaritan. Somebody's out there and they were shooting video of something, and maybe they saw a crime occurring. Maybe they saw someone breaking in through the backyard, where you have houses that are on the water, you have houses that are on golf courses, and people gain access, and they caught the crook. And it just so happens they see on the news and they go, oh my God, I was flying my copter, and they go back and they can see the person breaking in. Well, that's a good Samaritan. Many, many, many times.
So that's okay.
That's okay.
I mean, it's not like the criminal is going to sue you for...
No, although criminals can sue you if they get injured on your property while they're trying to rob you.
See, I never understood that.
They can do that. It's really weird.
I broke my leg while they're breaking into my...
Yeah, or your dog decides to bite them. It's protecting the home. They can come after you for that, even though they're the ones trespassing. So, in these situations, yes, you could use it as a good Samaritan. You can, unfortunately, our youngsters can shoot video and post something that maybe they shouldn't post. So, it just depends. So now, when my clients tell me something about, oh, my son got this equipment, do I have to do it? I said, just add personal injury liability to your policy, just in case.
Well, how expensive is that?
It's $25, $30 a year.
Oh, you're kidding.
It might go up after all this stuff because, you know, the insurance industry tends to catch up. You know, we see what happens and then we
so buy it now before they
buy
realize
it now,
say,
add it to your policy.
Lock me in for a long time.
You know, yeah, exactly. And, you know, like...
but with the influx of camera phones over the last decade, wouldn't the insurance company have put that in there? Because the same thing you can do on the ground, you can do in the air.
Absolutely. It's just that they're saying that now you're actually trespassing. Right. You're fence, and I hold my camera up and hit record, and I'm like, you know, that's trespassing. I could get sued for trespassing. If I don't have personal injury liability, I don't have coverage.
Okay. Another factor that people who fly copters, you know, again, you go out and buy an Inspire or a Tornado, you know, something that costs upwards of $2,000, $3,000. And then you have everything else involved in that. Let's say somebody steals your copter. Are you insured?
Yes, you are. If your copter, depending on how you use it, okay, if your copter is stolen from your home or your car, okay, it's considered personal property. Now, that's where the insurance company is going to try to find out, is this recreational personal use, or is this piece of equipment used in business? And that's where the coverage is going to be determined. Under your homeowner's policy, there is a limited amount of coverage for any business personal property, whether it's a computer, whether it's a printer, a scanner, a copter. If it's business personal use, usually the policies limit you to $1,000, $1,500, tops $2,500, unless you buy a policy to give you additional coverage for your business.
And you have a deductible
property
that comes into play.
Absolutely, you have your deductible. Many policies have $1,000 or $2,500 deductible on a homeowner's policy, or even more depending on the value of the home. So that's what they're going to do. Are you using it for business, or are you using it recreationally? Well, if you're using it recreationally, your regular deductible still applies. It's considered personal property, and they're going to cover the copter.
Okay, so let's say somebody breaks your home and they steal a bunch of the stuff, and the copter is just one of the items. They
correct.
take your TVs and computers or whatever. You list that in there, and you'll get at least part of it back. But if all they steal is your copter, it's probably not worth covering, because if it's $1,000 copter,
it's probably not worth putting in the claim. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if it's your, I had a perfect example. One of my clients, her son is he's in college, and he's taking a class on filming and videography and all that kind of stuff. So he bought an Inspire copter that has a video camera, and the cost of the copter was $2,800. They had a $2,500 deductible under the homeowners. The copter was stolen from the trunk of his car. He had come home from school, and he had left the car parked in the driveway. They broke into the car, and they took the copter, which was the only thing that was in the driveway. So I would bet you, I guess somebody was watching. And they called in to put in a claim. And when I received the receipt, you know, it's $2,500 deductible. You're going to put in a claim for $300. I feel really, really bad because it's an expensive piece of equipment. But that's the only thing they stole. So in their case, it wasn't worth putting in the claim.
Since it was stolen in a car, doesn't most car insurance?
Auto policies don't cover any of your personal property.
Okay, now how about if that same person, instead of living in a home, lived in an apartment?
He must have a renter's policy.
Okay, and if they didn't have a renter's policy, would that revert to your car policy?
No, the auto policies don't cover any personal property.
So on theft, any tips that people should know? Just,
you know, make sure, I mean, I'm sure that all of this equipment has their serial numbers and model numbers. You have receipts. Keep everything handy. Make sure that you have information to give to the insurance company so they know the value and that they know the type of item that you have. And if you have pictures, great. I would tell people to do the exact same thing that you do for any of the expensive items at home. I tell my clients, take pictures.
So if it's a watch or jewelry
take
or
pictures
something
of
like
your
that.
watches. You know, if you have very expensive jewelry, you're going to appraise it. But in this case, this is an expensive, in some cases an expensive toy. Some cases it's depending on how you're using it, it could be a piece of equipment. In this case, for this student, it was his tools for school. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things that the insurance company asked was how it was being used. because that's going to determine whether they're going to cover or not.
How did that change the outcome on this?
Well, in this case, because it was determined that it actually was a piece of equipment that he was using at school, it's considered regular personal property. It's covered like any and all contents under the house, and they pay it minus the deductible.
Okay.
So in this case, it was great. But let's say that you had a 50-50 rule. Well, I'm using it at school, but for my class, but I'm also making money on the side. I'm doing some videos for a local realtor and things like that. The minute there's remuneration involved, you're getting paid for a service that is considered business personal use, and now they're going to determine the claim under the business side, a business personal property side.
But so if now doing it on the side and they don't have a business policy,
this is the only place that they would get it. And again, it's limited to maybe $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,500, depending on the kind of homeowner's policy you have. And if you have a $2,500 deductible and the only thing they're going to pay is $1,000, it's a losing proposition. Yeah, it's a losing proposition right now.
Okay, we're going to go 2 parts on this topic because I have some more questions. But before I do, let's close off part 1 by just asking a simple question. If you're getting a new copter, or you already own one, how important is it? Let's say a recreational copter, whether it's a unique Typhoon or a DJI Phantom, just a run-of-the-mill $1,000 or less copter or so. How important is it to contact your insurance company to say, hey, I'm now flying copters?
Just, pick up the phone, call your agent, and so they can give you some advice. It's just a consultation and say, listen, I bought a copter for my 10-year-old. It doesn't have a video camera. Do I have to do anything special? And basically it's no, you don't have to do anything special. It's going to be considered contents. Okay, I bought my teenager a copter and it has a video camera on it. Is there anything I should do? Yes, I ask them to go ahead and add the personal injury liability coverage, make sure they have it on there. If they tell me, I just bought a copter and it's recreational, but sometimes I might use it for business. Well, how expensive is it? Mm-hmm. Because you can schedule your personal property. Even this, you can schedule photographers. I have people that are hobbyists and they love photography. They're not professional photographers. They just love to take pictures. And they have.
I enjoy the photography,
exactly.
But I'm not attempting to make
and
a
you have the
living
video
at it.
cameras, and you have the regular cameras, and you have a lot of equipment, and some of that equipment is expensive. Well, you can schedule photography equipment and things like that. You can schedule golf clubs, musical instruments on your homeowner's policy, or if you have a collections policy, you could do it on there as well. So I would say if you're going to spend $2,500, $3,000, $3,500 on a copter, or various copters, go ahead and schedule them. When you schedule them, your deductible from your homeowners doesn't apply. It's a smaller deductible. You can actually get a lower one. So you could get a $500 deductible or a $250 deductible.
And if you have a $3,000 copter, that's a lot better than a $2,500.
Yeah, because I would not put in a claim for $500.
Okay. Can you stay with us for a
while?
while?
Yes, absolutely. We'll stay a little longer.
Okay, we're going to take a break. I'm going to go on and put a link to part 2 right here if you're interested in this topic. Now, by the way, before we go, in case people aren't watching number 2, if they, and let me say this, there's no compensation either way. I'm not paying her, she's not paying me to do this, there's no promotion. But if anybody has questions, are you willing to field some?
Absolutely. Have them email me, and we'll go ahead and put the email address up.
Okay, your email address is dresnick at ncfins.com. I'll put the address right here. I'm also going to put up the link to part 2 of this video. If it hadn't been done yet, there won't be a link yet. There. If it's up there, we did part 2. So that's it for now. For videosbyandy.com, I'm the Gadget Guru Andy Parr, and I'll see you online, and hopefully not with an insurance claim.
Hopefully not.